when we talk to our customers, it's like, yeah, you could start an agent with kind of that like bottom of funnel MQL follow-up. But I say, like, where do you have headaches in your funnel? One place I really struggled was getting our humans to do proper event follow-up. They would ignore those leads. They're like, it's not worth my time to try and follow up with all those people. And so look at your whole inbound funnel and say, like, where do I have opportunity to be squeezing more pipeline out of kind of those touch points and deploy an agent there.
Hi, welcome back to SaaS Half Full, the only show serving B2B SaaS marketers. I'm Lindsay Groper, EVP at PanBlast, and I will be both your host and bartender today. I had an awesome conversation with Maura Rivera, who is the CMO at Qualified. We're talking all things agentic marketing and how you might be undervaluing what an SDR agent can bring to the table. If you'd care to, grab a drink and join me as I speak with Maura. Hey, Maura, welcome to SaaS Half Full.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited that you agreed to come on. We've known each other for a couple of years, always in person.
Yep.
And I was recently on a webinar that you hosted in which I got some champagne sent to me. And we talked about SDR agents, and you had the CMO on from Amplify. And It just got me thinking that, wow, the way that I think about SDR agents and agentic marketing is very narrow and in a box. And it sort of opened my brain to think there's probably other people who look at it the same way that I do. So I invited you to come on and talk to us about this today. Did we get you a cocktail or mocktail kit for the show?
You did. I have my mocktail because it's 11 a.m. here, but I think in a couple hours I'll be having a real cocktail. So I'm having a fruity San Pellegrino with lemon little mocktail.
Love it. Well, I am on East Coast. It's 2 p.m. It's Friday. I think it's a respectable hour. So I am having a glass of red wine because it is a solid 4 degrees outside in Indianapolis.
Oh my gosh, you deserve
it. Just anything with ice does not sound good to me right now. So red wine it is, but cheers. Thank you so much for joining me.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Before we dive into our topic of the day, which is talking all things agentic marketing and AI SDRs, I do want to dive into just a little bit about you, Maura, your background, and then certainly do give us the elevator speech of what is Qualified, why does Qualified exist? So that would be a great place to start. Just tell us about you. How'd you get into B2B SaaS marketing in the first place? And then roll into Qualified.
Yeah. So my name is Maura. I'm the CMO of Qualified, and it's been fun getting to know you over the last few years, Lindsay. I live in the East Bay. I have 3 kids. They're 3, 5, and 7. So they keep me quite busy. And I've been at Qualified for about 7 years. So we can talk more about it, but I was the 7th hire at Qualified. When I started, we were super small, and it was all kind of a dream of how we could transform pipeline generation. And today we're about 300 employees. We have like a brand that's real and tangible. We have a ton of customers in production with our agentic marketing platform. So it's been a really, I would say, a highlight of my career to be part of building and growing the Qualified brand. Prior to Qualified, I've worked at a few startups, all kind of in the Salesforce ecosystem. And before that, I was at Salesforce. That's actually where I began my career right out of college. I had probably a 5 or 6 year run there. And I kind of just landed there by luck. And I think I had no idea kind of the doors it would open for me in my career and kind of the trajectory that it would set me on. And I was able to land in a role really early on in my career as an executive assistant for the CMO at Salesforce at the time. And my eyes were just widened. And I was like, wow, B2B marketing can be really incredible. You can be storytellers. You can put on these events. You can create community. And so in retrospect, I don't think I appreciated the fact that I landed at such an incredible company, like right out of college. I was just like, oh, this must be what it's like to work in technology. But it kind of created this trajectory for my career. And most of the folks who I met in that first role, fast forward 15, 16 years later, I'm still working with the same group of people. All of our founders at Qualified are former Salesforce executives. So it's kind of created this awesome trajectory and career path, which has been really fun. So I went from a big company to some smaller companies to a true startup, and now we're in scale mode, which is really, really awesome.
I did not realize that you started as an executive assistant to the CMO. So you know where all the bodies are buried. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I remember when I was thinking about taking it, I was like, I don't know, like EA, that's not where I pictured myself. And I remember my dad was like, consider this an MBA in marketing. Like you get to see from like behind closed doors, how is it run? You get to learn, you get to just absorb. And I think that was the best advice I've ever gotten because I got to just kind of like be part of the machine, which is really, really lucky.
In terms of value that Qualified brings, who do you sell to? What does the software do?
Yeah. So speaking of CMOs, we sell to CMOs. We sell to CMOs, VPs of demand gen. And what we're really focused on is helping them generate more pipeline. So what we have is an agentic marketing solution, which these are all a lot of new words. So we can talk about kind of what that means. But we have an AI SDR agent. Her name's Piper because she generates pipeline. And the whole thought is you can use this agent to help generate more pipeline. She works on your website so she can engage folks when they arrive. She works on the email inbox so she can follow up with all of your marketing leads. And the whole idea is like this is an agent that works for you as a marketing leader to help you have more control over your inbound funnel. So that's kind of our core solution. One thing to note is we have tons of customers, like you mentioned, Amplify, Susan Ganeshan, who's the CMO there, who we were on a program with. They all personify their agents in a way that matches their brand. So like Brex has their agent Brexton, Amplify, I think Emmy is their agent's name. Lattice has Laddie. So we're giving CMOs agents to help really work their inbound funnel 24/7, 365. And it's been really cool to see what all of our customers have done with these agents in production.
Yeah. And when I was listening to Susan from Amplify on your webinar, it wasn't a webinar. What do we want to call it? It was
a virtual champagne tasting. We call it Taste of Qualified because you sip some champagne, you see a little product demo. Same thought as this.
Yes,
this
I know, but webinar just like is underselling it. So
totally a virtual event. Yeah.
Susan spoke, and that's again really what sort of got me thinking because when I hear SDR agent, I think chatbot for inbound leads.
Yes,
like pretty much just full stop. And what I learned was there's a lot of other use cases that an SDR agent is adding tremendous value. So talk to me about where you see most marketers. Well, I guess, do you feel like most marketers like me think that way, where we are putting SDR agents in this very, very small box? And if so, like, where do you see them leaving the most value on the table and overlooking what an SDR agent can really bring to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, that's a natural place to start with an SDR agent is take the work that your human SDRs do and have an agent do that instead. So if you have a human SDR following up with all of your inbound leads who come through your contact us forms or your requested demo forms, kind of those high intent MQLs, have an agent do that follow up. But what we're excited about is like, look at your entire inbound funnel, your top of funnel leads who might be just starting to engage with your content, your engaged leads who may be like you meet at an event, whatever it may be, and then those high intent leads, and have an agent work all of them. I would say when we talk to our customers, and I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, it's like, yeah, you could start an agent with kind of that like bottom of funnel MQL follow-up. But I say like, where do you have headaches in your funnel? Are you having a hard time following up with leads because they're just sitting there in your leads database? One place I really struggled was getting our humans to do proper event follow-up. They would ignore those leads. It was like always pulling teeth. And our SDRs are great, but they're like, it's not worth my time to try and follow up with all those people. And so look at your whole inbound funnel and say like, where do I have opportunity to be squeezing more pipeline out of kind of those touch points and deploy an agent there? So for us, and I think we talk about this like a lot in our community, which is not just using an agent to like replace exactly what the human was doing, but also trying to figure out where there are other opportunities. And a lot of what we've been talking about is the traditional inbound funnel is reliant on marketing automation, which is all rules-based and it's journeys and it's branching and it's if this and then that, and really reliant on human capacity. So like once they hit a certain threshold, then have a human work them. And in the agentic world, you're like, oh, I could have an agent work all of those leads, like the ones that you're using marketing automation to touch, the ones that are using humans to work. Like you could just have an agent work that whole funnel. So for us, an AI SDR agent is maybe even more than meets the eye. It's like an agent to work your whole inbound funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're mostly talking about marketing, owning this, but it is working sales. Working leads and sort of replacing some of the work that a traditional SDR would do. How do you see this like marketing owned versus sales owned? Who should own that and when, and how do you make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, the distinction that I like to make is inbound versus outbound. So, everything that the marketing team's doing to drive campaigns, to drive folks to your website, to host events, like marketing can really own the agent who's doing that follow up and is trying to nurture those leads and get them into pipeline. There's a whole nother world, which is like outbound prospecting. And that function typically rolls up into the CRO, that rolls up into sales. And that's a whole nother can of worms. That's figuring out who your contacts are, building out buying groups, doing research on those accounts. So we like to delineate like an inbound AI SDR agent can work for the CMO, and then outbound prospecting agent usually rolls up into sales. That being said, like sales and marketing both own the pipeline number, they should together. So you need buy-in from your counterpart of like, hey, I'm going to try this new thing. Are you down for me to test it out? I think I can commit to this much more pipeline for you, whatever it may be. And then on the flip side, if you're trying a new outbounding agent, like make sure the marketing team is bought in to make sure that they're on message and they're on brand and they're holding up kind of what you expect. So I'd say collaboration is key. We see a lot of companies with like kind of revenue operations teams who are orchestrating agents across so that you're not deploying agents in a totally siloed way. But inbound versus outbound, I think, is a clean way to look at it.
Okay, that's a good delineation. Thank you. In terms of the signals that an SDR agent is looking at, I mean, from a human being standpoint, there's a lot of signals. Like there's
Yes,
probably signal overload. Do you
totally.
find that it's easier working with the AI agent to like prioritize, or is it prioritizing signals differently than if you were looking at a lead and trying to score and look at all the different signals?
Yeah, I would say you kind of have the same infrastructure probably where you have, to your point, there are so many signals coming in from all of these places, whether you're using Sixth Sense or Demand Base, Qualified has signals, you have all of these other like research intent signals. Definitely that's what fuels the agent's behavior. So the agent can see all of your leads and accounts, they can understand who's starting to show intent, and then they can go after them. But the beauty of agents is like they don't really have to prioritize because they can go after all of them at once. So like they don't just need to go after, the hot, high intent surging accounts. They also can do multiple things at once. So they could also go after those accounts who are just like starting to go into research mode. And so signals are foundational, but the prioritization, I guess, is less important because an agent scales in a way that a human couldn't simply.
Right.
So I'd say they're imperative, but the prioritization goes away a little bit, which is kind of a weird concept to grasp.
That is a weird concept because I mean, I feel that pain when, I mean, even our own org, it's like we know all of the things. It's easy to create a list of all the things that we should be doing.
Yes.
We all know what we should be doing, but then it comes down to only having so much capacity and so many human hours to do said things. So those lower priority initiatives, right, always drop to the end or don't ever happen at all. And so like I totally feel that pain, and I love the fact that like prioritization isn't really a factor because it can do all of these things at such a fast clip to not even have to consider it. Have you seen like any specific use cases, or heard, I guess, any specific use cases that were unique to you? So I mean, we've talked about a couple. We've talked about following up with events. We've talked about hitting your website, ones that have been thrown in nurture and not been nurtured forever. Have you seen any like really interesting use cases? And maybe these are just like one-offs that could also like help our listeners get an idea of like, oh shit, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Use deploy an agent for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we kind of touched on it, but like the events use case is far and away my favorite. So the reason is like as marketers, we're spending so much money putting them into events. And it's really hard to drive registration for events, whether it's a virtual event or in person, to like book meetings for your in-person staff for them to be there. And then when it's time to follow up with an event, it's always like, okay, it's a medley of marketing automation and mass email and human touch. And like you could spend $150,000 on an event, and then you're trying to get that follow up and you're not getting the attention it deserves. So for us at Qualified, because we're big users of our own product, when we started doing the pre-event outreach with an agent, and it's all hooked up to your CRM, like just like the signals, like the data upon which this agent sits is super, super important. And then you can actually send emails out on behalf of like account owners in Salesforce. So I can have the agent send emails out on behalf of AEs or the CSMs or whatever it may be. And then same with the follow-up, you can have the agent do all of that work. This year, we spent 90% more dollars on events, and we've gotten 352% more pipeline from events.
Wow.
And that's compared to last year when we had humans working all of our events leads. This year, we only have an agent working our events leads. So I used to have 10 inbound SDRs working all of our inbound funnel. Now I just have our agent, and we redeployed those inbound SDRs to do prospecting and go outbound. So the events use case is like a no-brainer, my absolute favorite. We've seen a lot of interesting use cases like further down the funnel, even things that are pretty simple. If somebody comes to the website, if they give you your email but drop off and don't book a meeting on site, have the agent do the follow-up with them. And then one thing that's been really cool is just like really old, stagnant lead lists. Like, some people have 30,000, 50,000, a million leads just sitting in their database. What the agent can do is they can look at all of those leads, they can look for signals of intent, and then they can fire off relevant email campaigns. So like, Lindsay, maybe you're in our leads database, but we haven't interacted. You haven't like come to our website in a while, but you start Googling agentic marketing or you start doing some research. And so the agent can harness that intent data and reach out to you with a relevant email about your account, your lead, your intent, and pull you back into the funnel because they're always looking for those signals. And that's where you get a lot of like that gold that you might not have gotten if you hadn't deployed the agent to work that lead list and like always be hunting for how they can get pipeline out of it. So those are some of my favorites, but we have like customers every day doing tons of cool stuff. And that's where like the power of community is right now because we're all trying to learn from each other.
Yeah. And is the outreach from the agents mostly email based?
Yeah, it's mostly email based with our product, but there are other more like outbound related products that can do social messaging and those type of things. For us, we're really focused on like the key marketing channels, which are email and website.
Right. Yeah. We don't use and I say we, most of you know who I'm talking about, but at Pan Blast, we're marketing services. So we do PR for SaaS and AI companies. Mm-hmm. So we don't have like our volume of leads is different than, most of you who are listening. So we do not have an inbound. We don't have an SDR agent for inbound, but we do leverage an AI outbound tool.
Okay. And how's it going?
It's going well. What I have found is you really have to put in the work to give it accurate inputs to target. It's the targeting that's available is shaky at best. And the thing that I've learned is that because I asked this, it's like a newer company, and I asked my rep, I said, do most people just run this blind search and just accept the list for what it is, use AI to write the messages and hit send? She's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, that's horrible. This is where bad AI comes in, because like I did a test on literally like 10 people, and I let AI write the messages, and it was based on LinkedIn, and it was awful. I actually I sent another message to the people and said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm actually testing out a new outbound AI tool, and clearly we have some work to do. That yielded a response from almost everyone who was like, oh my gosh, no problem. Thanks for transparency. But the personalization was really bad. And we've all fallen victim to that. We all get those messages on LinkedIn and on email. So talk to me about the personalization that you use with Piper. Where's that information being pulled from, and like how detailed do you try to get? Because what I found was the more detailed the agent tried to be, the worse it was.
Yes, totally. And that's why I think like outbound and inbound are such different beasts, because outbound, you're kind of like trying to do blind research. You're trying to break into these accounts. Or inbound, you're like, okay, they've already told me they have some interest in my brand, whether it's downloading an ebook or whatever, coming to an event or filling out a form, even if it was a while ago. So they've already like started to build some familiarity with you. So you're not going to hopefully scare them as much, right, when you reach out to them in the email inbox. The foundation of an agent is really like the platform upon which it's built, first thing that's critical is you're hooked up to all your systems. So CRM is the heartbeat of your agent. They've got to know your leads, your accounts, if you have an open opportunity with them, what product lines you're interested in, all of that great stuff. And then a lot of the other kind of applications that you hook up can really shape their behavior. If you have a marketing automation platform, which most companies do, you can make sure that you understand all of their scoring and their intent, and if they've been cookied and come to your site, whatever it may be. ABM platforms are also really great because you can understand like if they're a target account and what type of intent they're showing. Then there's a ton of other platforms that you can hook up to it. So really that like integration layer is key. And then having the agent be able to like take all of that information and then understand your business segmentation, how you think about like routing, how you think about your sales team, whatever it may be. So there's kind of that extra layer of like data and tools. And then the agent on top of that, we always say you need to be able to onboard them and coach them and guide them just like you would a human. So you need that interface to make sure like they understand just like you would onboard a human SDR, like, hey, here's how we position. Here are guardrails. Don't talk about pricing. If somebody wants to talk to support, route them that way. So like having that really robust platform underneath the agent is critical so that they can be this proactive, sophisticated, good touch point for your brand versus like a total failure, which it sounds like maybe you experienced with your experiment, which is like bound to happen. But that platform is key.
Yeah, definitely. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about team design, talent. We're not going to talk about like, is AI going to replace jobs? I mean, everyone's talked about that enough. But I guess talk to me about where the roles that you see, like if you employ an SDR agent, the roles that you see that lifting up. I mean, I would imagine that AEs are like over the moon. But where do you see that SDR that is not a human being providing a lift to the org?
Yeah. I mean, like, first and foremost, I feel like it's this awesome new tool in the marketing operations growth demand gen toolkit. Like, all of a sudden, there's a scalable way for you to generate pipeline and work all of your leads. So it makes that team look good because you're better able to hit your pipeline numbers. It's also inventing new roles. Like, we have a guy on my team who's GTM AI operations, and he oversees our agents. Like, he wakes up every day to be like, are the agents well fed with content? Are they on message? He's coaching them. He's testing them. So like, it's also creating these new career paths.
Yeah.
This GTM AI guy on my team, his name's Ryan. He was one of our best SDRs. And he's like, I want to get into marketing. And we are like, actually, this is perfect timing. Do you want to oversee our agent operation? So it's like creating these really cool career paths. So I would say that demand gen ops function, it's lifting up. I feel like it eases the marketing sales relationship because you're feeding them more pipeline. And I also feel like for your humans who might be going outbound from like a BDR perspective, they feel like they have some new muscle to flex. They're not just like fielding all the inbound, which can sometimes be a little boring, I think. So I feel like it eases that. And then last but not least, I feel like it lifts the enablement function a little bit because you're not like, with the SDR role with humans, it's such a revolving door and you're always like onboarding and making sure they're on message and like, can they answer intricate product questions? And an agent, it's kind of like a one-time onboarding and then iterate over time. Right. So there's less headaches trying to onboard and enable from a marketing perspective. So it feels like this win-win. And then the hope is the CMO has more pipeline to report on at the board meetings, which is a good thing.
This idea of like a bot manager, we've talked about this with our clients, is really interesting because, we've all seen it over our careers where there are people who are really great managers, not great leaders.
Yeah.
We've seen those who are awesome as individual contributors who really don't have the skill set to manage humans. But this provides like an additional layer there of like, you might not have the skill set to manage humans, but like, boy, you could be a fantastic person to manage our bots, manage our AI. And I feel like that's just going to become more and more prevalent. And it would be irresponsible for companies to not, if they are going to be implementing a lot of AI, to not have somebody who is overseeing that.
It's critical.
Yeah, a lot can go wrong. So I love that you guys are already having that role internally. I want to talk about MQLs just as sort of they exist today and maybe just future looking from your standpoint. Do you feel like MQLs as we know them will just fundamentally become obsolete? Sort of what's the future of MQLs?
I think they will become obsolete. I mean, we talk about like this traditional playbook that we've all relied on for 20 years because it's been the best thing available to us, which is you have so much human capacity. You have to set that threshold for who those humans work, which is why we created the MQL. These are ones that we deem sales ready and ready for you to work. And then everybody above that gets that automation that we talked about. I think it's scary for us to let go of that old funnel, for us to let go of like MQLs and lead scoring and traditional nurture and like all of these processes for humans. But in this agentic world, like we talked about, the agent can work top to bottom of your inbound funnel. They might have a different way that they engage with the MQLs. They're working towards booking a meeting. They're working towards like looping in the AE as soon as possible, where somebody who's not an MQL, they're just trying to drip content and keep them engaged. Right. So they're going to have different rules of engagement for your different lead types. So you'll still need a way to educate the agent for the best behavior because you don't want them to be trying to book that meeting with the ebook download who's never engaged with your brand before. So you'll need to shape the agent to behave appropriately. But I do think the word MQL is going to vanish from our vernacular. And what that new funnel looks like we've been calling it the agentic marketing funnel. I was talking with Wendy Werby, who's the CMO of Comply, who you know, and she's like, it's not a funnel, it's a pinball machine, and everybody's going all over the place. So I think we're trying to figure out what does the new world look like because it's much less linear. But yeah, we got to throw some of that old stuff in the trash can. I think it served us well, but it's time to say bye-bye a little bit.
Yeah. So bye-bye to MQL. And it sounds like you think maybe bye-bye to the term marketing automation, that's going to be replaced by agentic marketing.
That's what I think. Yeah. That's what we're betting on. So we'll see.
What else haven't we talked about that you want to make sure that we cover in this conversation?
I think we've covered the crux of it, which is it's this whole new world. I think as we go into 2026, and you and I have talked about this at our in-person retreats and stuff that we've gone to in our CMO communities. But I think 2025 was the year of putting agents into production. And 2026 is the year where folks are really going to figure out what's working and what's not. Cut some of the use cases that weren't impactful. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of CMOs of B2B companies who have agents who are producing pipeline results for them. So I think it's a little less scary now. It feels more tangible. And then I guess just plug, if you want to see agents in production, go to qualified.com. You can talk with our agent, Piper. She's real. We just launched a multimodal version of her. So you can talk with her over video, using voice, whatever modality works for you. But I think it's a pretty exciting time because we can all look like heroes at our board meetings if we can bring this kind of agentic layer to the marketing organization. And it feels very tangible right now, which is exciting.
Well, you've created FOMO with me. You did on a virtual event, and I've literally been thinking about it ever since.
Oh, good.
We are, again, we're services, but all of the things that you've described, all of the pain points that this solves are all pain points that we experience. Mm-hmm. So I will be looking into this much more heavily because I think it's something that even, a company like us could benefit from for sure.
Totally.
As I end every episode, Maura, I ask my guests if they have a signature or favorite toast to send us out.
Ooh, I mean, I always just say health, wealth, and happiness, but that's so boring and basic.
It's not. Right? I say cheers. So health, wealth, and happiness is way better than mine. You think I have a really cool one because I asked this question? I don't.
I know. I feel like maybe we need to workshop that a little bit.
We could. Yeah. I guess at the end, I say bottoms up, but I don't have one. But we've had every so many different languages, really, really cool toast. So health, wealth, and happiness is great. I will drink to that. Cheers.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Lindsay. Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks again to Maura for joining me. I loved that conversation. Definitely opened my mind into what SDR agents can do and how it can help maximize your inbound engine. Hopefully you took a couple things away from the conversation as well. We always appreciate the listen. And until next time, bottoms up.